that's a lot of challenges. Let's discuss some of them with and possible solutions with Bright Matonga. He was Zimbabwe's Deputy Information Minister with the ruling Zanu-pf party under Robert Mugabe. A regular guest on the show. Good to have you finally here on set in person, Bright.
Thank you very much. It's good to be in Turkey for the first time, and I'm happy to be here.
Okay, so long story short, after 2 years, everybody looks at Zimbabwe and says, well, it's more of the same. No changes under Mnangagwa. It was a palace coup. Mugabe was an old man on his way out, and those around him decided to get rid of him and continue the system with business as usual. That's the truth, isn't it?
Well, that was the bad and the ugly. Now we're talking about the good.
What's the good?
The good is that this is a new dispensation that is willing, that is engaging the international community, that is talking it to its international partners, our development partners, the United States, EU. We have regular meetings with the European Union diplomats in Harare. A lot has happened in terms of reforms and media reforms, anti-corruption, people are being arrested.
Okay, so you're speaking to the European Union. The European Union says the democratic space in Zimbabwe has deteriorated since they opened talks with you in June. That the abductions of several political activists has reinforced the impression that the democratic space is being curtailed again.
I think that's an old sort of cliche that has been being used or peddled by people.
But I'm saying it's not good news because you're saying you're talking to them, they're saying, well, this is getting worse.
Well, this is, it's a transition process, it's difficult. Zimbabwe needs support right now. Zimbabwe doesn't need to be condemned. Zimbabwe has been through so much. So really it's been the best interest of our partners to make sure that we get support if
But they've seen the images of Nelson Chamisa's fans being beaten up as well. Have you seen those images?
Well,
let's call them up. Let's call them up. Have we got those images of Nelson Chamisa's supporters, the MDC opposition supporters? There we go. So you can see it on that monitor there, right? So they were getting roughed up by police, getting them smashed up. This is not different from the Mugabe government doing this to Morgan Tsvangirai and his fans.
What is bad is for someone to incite people to cause problems, to incite people to go in the street, to incite people to have illegal gatherings. I think we had the policemen saying to those protesters, say, look, if there's no space, you better disappear, because they blocked the roads for everything. But it's not good for the police. It's not good for Zimbabwe to beat up its citizens. We don't condone that kind of behavior, but the worst part is the people that cause such things to happen. It was timed for our meetings with the EU the following day. It's the MDC's Chamisa. He wants to get attention. It's not good for him to provoke, to send people in the streets so that they get beaten up and he gets mileage out of that. It's not good to demonize your country to the international community. It's not good to get to set people up. And I don't think
inflation at 300%. That's the IMF's figure from August. Your government's not giving us inflation figures, right? Fuel shortages, electricity shortages. Once again, images of supermarkets not having enough food. Who's to blame for that?
We have said to our development partners, especially the United States and EU, that, look, those sanctions are illegal. They were not imposed by the United Nations. So they can be good. We are hamstrung. You know, you're talking to us, you're putting us in shackles.
But the sanctions are on people like yourself. People connected to the party. It's not on the ordinary people. It has nothing to do with bread in the supermarket.
There are financial sanctions. There are
on people like yourself.
No, for the whole country. They are disguised as targeted sanctions. But we know that if you're dealing with Zimbabwe and you're an American company or you use the United States dollars, the punishment is on that bank, on that American company, by the way. So really people will say, oh, no, Zimbabwe is on sanctions. We can't do business with you. So these are the things that we are engaging the Americans and the British quietly. Of course, there is megaphone diplomats sometimes just to manage certain things. But I'm happy that President Mnangagwa is sent people around the world.
He was in Dubai recently.
He was in Dubai. He sent emissaries all over the world. We're trying to say, hey, Zimbabwe needs support. Zimbabwe doesn't need to be condemned.
The finance minister said China provided $3.6 million. The Chinese said, hang on, we gave you $136.8 million. Yes. Did somebody screw up? Did one of the staff members mess up the numbers? Or Is Zimbabwe only reporting a small smidgen of what the Chinese
My
are
understanding
giving
is that the government insists with that matter. They want to understand why those figures didn't add up. They want to understand whether that was mischief. The Chinese have been very good partners with the government of Zimbabwe. They've through thick and thin before.
3.6 million compared to 137 million.
It is embarrassing, and it's very clear that it is
What happened to
embarrassing.
$134 million the Chinese said they gave to your government?
I think it was just someone who was very mischievous, played around with those figures. The records are there.
That's maybe somebody mischievous played around with the money.
No, definitely not. The Chinese are very clear. They want to know how the monies are used so that they release the next batch. And I'm happy that the Minister of Finance, Professor Mtuli Mugabe, was on the ground. He made sure that the figures added up. And my understanding now is, I'm in Turkey right now, is that there are serious investigations to find out what happened with those figures. Was it a mistype? Someone that was slept on the duty, or just mischief?
Okay, let us know if you find out. Okay, the finance minister also set aside $24 million to compensate white farmers who had their land taken from them. You support that?
Yes. No, that's very good. We're engaging with the white farmers. They agreed on the compensation figures. And it's a learning process for everyone.
But the US government saying return the land to the white farmers and we'll ease up on the sanctions.
The land reform is a closed chapter. Anyone who thinks that the land will be reversed, they're wasting their time.
But do you accept it was a failed policy?
Well, it had to be. We're looking at. We have to look at the background to it. It was
okay. These people are the descendants of settlers and so on.
Sanctions,
but
right?
It collapsed the economy. This is
like lynching. These sanctions are like lynching. So
what does that mean?
You know, you see what slaves. There's white people.
The sanctions are like.
Yeah, it is. It's a continuation of that process. And it's not good for anyone. And I'm happy that.
But you believe that the land reform policy worked. All things considered, I mean, it's even supporters of Mugabe said he messed up the economy through land reform.
The land reform is a closed chapter. What we have to work on, and everyone has to wake up to that, is that it has to be. We have to develop the land. We have to produce food for our own people, and food for export.
Why didn't you develop the land that you got?
The
farm that you got?
No. We've got sanctions. We've got droughts. We've got all sorts of things.
Blessed Mnangagwa wrote in 2016 about your farm, right? Chigwell Estate.
It's not only my farm.
Okay, but listen to this about your farm. For those who don't know, and you can Google Blessed Mhlanga, Mhlanga. This was written in 2016. Chigwell Estate, ironically, it belonged to a white Zanu-pf loyalist, Tom Beattie. You got it. Chigwell Estate used to be a multi-million-dollar business that produced citrus fruits for export to the Middle East, Europe, and Russia. Just a decade ago, the farm used to employ 1,200 people and was exporting about 300,000 cartons of oranges each year, fetching between $7 and $10 per carton. The farm can now easily be mistaken for a wilting forest suffering under the burden of the unforgiving heat. It goes on to say it's a mess. It was brought to its knees. Thorns and so on and so forth. So would you accept that in your example, land reform was a failure?
No, it wasn't. The plantation was set on fire so that they sabotaged that.
Who sabotaged it?
Well, it's either the former white farmer or the people that are against land reform. So it's very clear. It's on the main road. It was set on fire, and citrus is very prone to fire. Once you light a cigarette, the whole thing goes in flames. So it was there because I was a government minister. They wanted to prove that land reform has failed. It hasn't failed. We are reviving it. We are reviving production, even nationally.
Why should people believe in Zimbabwe? The people are wishing for the best for Zimbabwe, but they don't necessarily believe that ZANU is the answer.
Well, that's...
Why should they trust you?
Why should Zanu-pf brought independence to Zimbabwe. Zanu-pf brought all the reforms that are happening is because of Zanu-pf. And we went to war, I'm one of them, to make sure that land is given to its rightful owners. But hey, Zimbabwe was feeding also the United Kingdom and other countries.
How much more time do you want the world to give Zanu-pf?
they have to remove the sanctions. The sanctions are killing people. We have got shortages of drugs in hospitals. People are dying. Doctors are going on strike. There's not enough resources. If you put sanctions and if you stop people from investing in Zimbabwe, people are going to die. And I don't think that's what the world wants, for people to die for nothing. For what? For land. Land is a problem everywhere. Land is the cause of war. But we have said to our development partners, especially the United States and the United Kingdom, that, hey, let bygones be bygones. Okay. Let this build this new country. Support President Mnangagwa. Support this government. You can't bring, illegally bring another party government.
Okay, Bright, I've got to wrap. We can continue forever, but good to have you back on the program. Bright Matonga, thanks for joining us.